Good evening, everyone. I'm going to open up tonight's meeting for the Mashpee Conservation Commission. This is a meeting for Thursday, November 10th at the Wacoit Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North. We're being broadcast live on local cable channel 18 and streamed live on the Town of Mashpee website. Would you please stand and join me for a pledge of allegiance to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It is now 6:06, so I will call the first hearing that is scheduled for tonight. This is a 6 o'clock hearing for Mark R. and Robin L. Galante, 164 Captain's Row. It is for a proposed two-story addition to an existing dwelling. The representative is J.E. Landers Colley, and this is an amended order of conditions. The applicant has requested a continuance to December 8th. So I would accept a motion from a commissioner to continue this hearing until December 8th at 6:06.
So moved.
Thank you, Marjorie. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Aaron. Any discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none. Marjorie?
Yes.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Tom?
Aye.
Charlie?
Yes.
Thank you, Charlie. I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Our second hearing is listed for 6:03. It is for Swan and Stephanie Oy, 59 Cove Road. It is for a proposed vista pruning, and the representative is the owner. This hearing has also been requested to be continued until our December 8th meeting, and that would be scheduled for 6:09. Is there a motion by a commissioner?
I move to continue.
Thank you, Marjorie. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Aaron. Any discussion on continuing this hearing? Being none, I'll call for a vote. Marjorie?
Yes.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Tom?
Aye.
Thanks. Charlie?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Pretty close timing, huh? We're a minute off. I don't think we've ever done that before.
Don't jinx it.
Now calling the 6:06 hearing. This is for Bayberry Village Homeowners Association, 0 Beach Godfrey Road. It's proposed grading and recreational improvements, with the representative being the Homeowners Association. This is a request for determination of applicability. Is there someone here to represent?
Yes.
Could you come up, sir, and give your name for the record? And tell us what you have.
Sure. Name is Joe Green. I'm with the Bayberry Village Homeowners Association. And this is the beach lot at the end of the Homeowners Association. So what we're proposing is to clean it up. There's some slight grading that needs to be done. We want to add some mulch and add just a couple of Adirondack chairs and tables. It's got a view kind of overlooking the Mashpee River. Included in that, there's also a couple of small trees that we're proposing to remove and replace with similar plantings in different locations.
I'll open it up to the commissioners first for any questions or comments that they might have.
Did this have to go before the Board of Health?
No,
No. And it didn't have to go before ZBA, I see. No?
no.
No. So, Mr. Chairman, on the vegetation, there doesn't seem to be any notation on what vegetation may or may not be disturbed in this process, because it's on the water, right?
It abuts the Mashpee River, yeah. We're
Yep.
not proposing removing any vegetation. This is just, it's kind of a grass lot that would be grading, regrading, and just, there's a couple of trees that you see in the pictures that would be removing and then replanting some more trees.
What are you replanting? I'm sorry.
For replacing the trees, there's a couple of, you can see there's one tree there, very small tree, and then there's the second tree, which is right in front of the,
Right.
kind of the gate to the,
What are you replanting them with? What is going to be put in their place?
would be similar trees, but just at a different location on the same lot, further
Similar.
to the left.
So I guess the question is Drew online, or shall we have our,
We did have
Our
Drew
new-
come out and discuss the plans with us. He did meet with us.
He did.
He did.
did he submit any comments?
Comments?
or- Yeah?
Yeah, so the agent's comments were the buffer zone of the coastal bank, existing grass area association land, abutting embankment to the Mashpee River. The applicant seeks to do some minor site grading to the area that pitches towards the bank. Proposal includes putting down mulch, picnic tables, and removal of 2 trees. One is the hemlock, which has health issues, and the other is an eastern red cedar fronting access to the association dock. Mitigation plantings to compensate for loss of 2 trees, low-profile landscape tie retaining wall along edge of grass top of bank, and the site grading will help reduce the runoff down a very steep bank.
So with those mitigating factors, you all are cool with the plan as it exists?
Yes, as the plan exists right now, yeah.
The mulch that you're putting down, is that near this steep grade?
But so the idea is to level the grade.
Okay.
And then the
So it's not
mulch.
like a
So it
sliding
won't, the mulch
mulch.
won't, exactly.
Any questions, Tom? No? Charlie, do you have any questions?
No?
What's the time frame for the work, sir?
We'll have to, get somebody to do the work, obviously, and arrange I mean, we'd like to have certainly some of the grading and so forth done as soon as possible, with the plantings and so forth being done in the spring.
In the spring? So the mitigation would take place in the springtime, but you want to get the grading done
Earlier, yep,
before winter?
correct.
Okay, I'll open it up to people in the audience that have any questions or comments. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Raul Lizardi from Cape Island Engineering, but I'm just here to just make some comments because I've done some work on the abutting property on Godfrey. And the idea, if I understand correctly, to regrade that grass strip to pitch it back towards the road is a great idea. This coastal bank is rather steep. It goes from elevation like 22 to elevation 2 at the shores of Mashpee River. It's very steep. So avoiding this runoff to pass on past the road and down this bank is really beneficial for this coastal bank. So if that's the understanding that I have and is correct, I believe this is a good project to regrade that grass area back towards the road.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to question or comment? Hearing none. Dan, were there any other comments that were made by the agent?
So I read the agent ones, and then there was the Board of Health comment. to note the location of the septic systems and restrict heavy equipment and vehicles traffic over non-load-bearing components. And that's it.
Is there a septic system on that lot, sir?
I don't
Did you-
think so. No. I don't, I
No.
mean, that's just it's a vacant beach lot.
Or to access to get into it at all? Doesn't have to cross any?
It's literally at the end of a cul-de-sac, so.
Okay. Okay. One of the concerns that I would have is if the grading is going to be done now and the mitigation, we're going to wait until the spring, what's going to stabilize these soils throughout the winter? And I know the pitch is coming back away from the river.
Right.
So my concern isn't that the soils are going to migrate down the bank into the water, but there could be washout. Is part of the proposal to have siltation barriers around the area that you're going to be grading?
We had considered, railroad ties at the end of it.
Could you please come to the, and speak into the
I'm sorry.
microphone? Sure thing.
This is Steve Otto, who's the president of the association.
Yes, it's our plan to level this, take a minimal of the weed, and there's some railroad ties that led to the older dock that was destroyed in a storm in the 80s. And with the big railroad ties in the ground, it's very uneven, and after that's done, we want to put in a good 4 or 5 inches of mulch, which Drew said, would be good to hold back. And that we would want to get done now as we grade. And then in the
Okay.
spring, we would plant the trees or whatever else needed to be planted. I don't think it's a good time to plant anything. I think we're a little late for that.
Yeah,
It wouldn't survive the winter. So as far as holding the soil back, in our opinion, it should be the mulch that should do that.
and these, the railroad ties that you're using?
No, the railroad ties, this way this lot is, it's pitched this way, going towards the stairs to the dock that goes out to the water. And we want to put a step on the side of the road so that it is not just constant rundown, but there's some type of edge to step over.
Okay,
The left part of the lot is going to be road level and shouldn't be an issue in that regard.
Okay.
When we were discussing with Drew and whether or not he would want something along the top edge of the embankment, he didn't think that was necessary, other than the natural growth that's there. I forget what type of juniper or whatever plants are that are just naturally growing.
sure.
We're not looking to change any of that. What's there, if you look at the pictures, it's pretty bald, it's a mess. Kids go down there, they trip on things, and we just want to make it so you can go down and use it and, watch a sunrise, a sunset, whatever it may be. And it's usable.
Will there be a little wine table? Like-
There's gonna be two.
Just saying, it might,
That's why
for
we
the
want.
homeowner.
Yes. We originally threw the idea of maybe a bocce court, but they didn't want to do that.
You might, come back after you put all the mulch down.
I'm all for it, so.
Okay. And there are 3 trees altogether that are coming up?
There's 3 trees. There's the cedar that's literally 4 feet in front of the gate that goes down the stairs.
Mhm.
And then there's 2 little evergreens that are kind of ponied up right next to bigger evergreens.
Okay.
And they're just they're gonna be a problem later at some point. They're small enough now. Let's take them out, and let's make a little cluster of 3 trees somewhere on the edge.
Okay. I was just getting a sense of the mitigation that we would require. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
What is it, am I all over it?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, I'll accept the motion by Commissioner.
So, Mr. Chairman, what would the motion be to move it forward? With the
We-
mitigating factors that Dan referenced.
What we'd be looking for is a negative determination. This is an RDA, so we'd be looking for a negative determination. And we would be conditioning some mitigation to be carried out in the spring because of the 3 trees that are
Right.
coming through.
So moved. And I just move
Thank you.
without having to repeat it all. I just want to make sure that we get in Drew's comments
Right,
for the mitigation into the spring.
okay, thank you. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Charlie. Well, we get some feedback tonight. Okay, any discussion on the motion that's on the table? There being none, I'll take a roll call vote. Marjorie?
Yes.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're late. Now we're running right on time. Now calling the 6:09 hearing. This is for Stephen M. and Jill M. Perpua. This is 134 Shore Drive West for a proposed construction and maintenance of beach access stairs. Representative Cape and Islands Engineering. There's a request for this hearing to be continued to December 8th, and if that carries, it would be scheduled for 6:03 PM. Is there a motion to continue this hearing?
So moved?
Thank you, Marjorie. Second?
A second.
Thank you, Aaron. Any discussion on the motion to continue? Hearing none, call for a vote. Marjorie?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
Charlie?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Now calling the 6:12 hearing for Donna Schneider, 83 Neshobe Road, proposed addition to an existing single-family dwelling. Representative C3 Management Incorporated. This is an RDA. Is there someone to,
He's online. Kaz, are you there?
I am.
who is the person?
Kaz.
Kaz?
He's C3.
Good evening, sir. Could you give us an outline for the project that you have before us?
Kaz, are you speaking through your computer, or can I get you to call in a number? Can you hear me? Kaz?
Hello?
Did you, Kaz, are you doing this through your computer or did you phone into Kaz, if you will please mute your audio on your computer and call this number.
Dan,
There we go. Is that you?
this for you.
Kaz?
You have his mobile? You have the gentleman's mobile phone that you could text him on? Oh, no.
What's this, the number at the bottom of the page here, is that his cell phone? Okay. 774 number?
I have a feeling that's the only way you're gonna get him to.
What's the number?
They want you to call in.
Oh, Donna. That must
She's
be
got
Donna.
Got it?
Are you Donna?
Yes.
Hi.
Want me to hang up and you can call it?
Does she know the number that he's supposed to
I
call?
don't know.
Could you put the number up one more time and then call?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello?
There he is.
I'm so sorry about that.
No worries.
Time's up.
Trouble with my computer.
Yep, loud and clear.
All right. All right, so, okay, so I got the brief so far. Are there any questions on the proposed addition up to now?
Well, we have the plan up on the screen, so everyone here in the audience can see it. We were hoping for you to give a short outline as to what the project entails for the commission.
I'm sorry?
Kaz, can you give a brief outline of the project?
Okay, so what we're proposing is a 18 by 19 and a half foot addition on the east side of the existing dwelling right now. It is currently taking up the space that was previously used by the previous owner as parking for a boat or something like that. So it's gravelled right now. There's no vegetation that we have to take down or anything like that. It's pretty barren at this point. We found out just recently in the process that we were in a flood zone designated as AE, and our elevations are, within, the floodplain, which actually exists up to the east lot line of the project. I don't anticipate any runoff or anything like that because it is a relatively flat. If you have the plan up there, you see that the topography is, again, relatively flat and not a lot of disturbance that we anticipate. That's pretty much it right now.
Okay. Do we have the plans for the septic? Part of this proposal is a septic system upgrade, correct?
That's a different project where we've only been
Okay.
assigned to the addition in itself.
Okay. Isn't that part of what we're approving tonight? That is his comments. He has to review that.
Yeah, I'm happy to run and get it if anybody else has comments.
Yeah, I think we should have that. Just
Okay, I'll be ready.
I missed his presentation, was it lengthy or?
No.
It's just what's on the page.
Our administrative assistant has gone up to the office to get the plans for the septic. We want to take a look at those. Technology is not our friend tonight. Now we have a paper glitch. I'm just looking at some of the comments about the septic
We're doing right
system. I'll hold on that. I want to see the paperwork
The septic.
for the septic design, because I know there's going to be questions about that.
I don't think that's it. All I have is the site plan, which is what you have.
There's a location for it, but there's no information about it.
Did you put it in the big one? No, I don't have it. Oh,
I have a copy.
you do?
I have a smaller one and I have a larger one in my car.
Of the septic?
Yes. The septic has been approved. In fact, it's underway.
We want to get a copy of this, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I'd like to see that.
I'm the homeowner, but I could speak to any questions you have.
Okay, sure.
Do you want to get copies?
Excuse me? Do we want to get a copy of this is her septic plan? While we're waiting for the copy, I stepped out when he was giving testimony. Same number of bedrooms? Increase square footage?
Just square footage.
Same, well, no, the increase.
No additional bedrooms.
No additional bedrooms, but an increase of how many square feet?
300,
So,
350.
I'm hearing the question as far as the increased square footage.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so the foundation is 351 square feet. It is 2 stories, so we're just over 700 total.
In the new addition?
Correct.
And the current home, existing home?
Current existing home is 1,545 square feet.
Okay, so you're going to 22, and now you're adding a bathroom. I apologize if you already said this. I had to leave the room for a couple of minutes, but is there are there additional bathrooms?
Yes, there are additional bathrooms.
Do we have that information here? How many additional bathrooms are you proposing?
2.
2, plus how many in the existing house?
There are 2, and one will go down to a half bath.
Would you mind terribly coming up here to the front so that they'll hear you for posterity?
Yep.
So you're the homeowner?
Yes. It is a cottage-style home. It has, the current bedrooms don't have, only one has a closet, so they're very small. So the hope for this is to, give us a little more space, same number of bedrooms. And each bedroom will have a bathroom. The existing bathrooms, one will be a half bath. We'll go down to a half bath.
So right now you have 2 baths, 3 bedrooms.
Yeah, there's no way to kind of get rid of the old bathrooms where they are, so they'll just stay.
Right. Well, obviously the difference is in the septic and what the increase is and how it'll be managed. And so if the 2 baths go to 1.5, then, and you'll have 1 for each bedroom, so you're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 baths in a 20.
It'll be 3.5. They're really small.
I don't think it's so much about the size of the baths as much as
I thought it was number of bedrooms. That was the,
number of bedrooms
yeah,
and how it's handled
okay.
with the baths and the faucets and the plumbing and all of that, which all of it obviously goes to the septic. So,
So when you bought it, it was sold as a 3-bedroom, but there was no closet in one of the bedrooms?
2 of the bedrooms don't have closets.
How did your agent let that happen? Just curious.
Um,
No, it's okay. Just wondering.
It's a small house. It was to be a beach house. We're right on,
Okay. And it's 3 bedrooms with a town, 3-bedroom septic now?
I think so. One of the bedrooms does not have a full wall. It has like transom windows in it, so it's in our plans to modify that, so that's not, doesn't fall under the square footage of being a bedroom at all.
Yeah, I would want to make sure with the town, it is 3 bedrooms.
Yes, it is. It is an approved 3-bedroom house.
From the phone here. So the previous owner, prior to Donna owning the home, one of those bedrooms is on the first floor and does not necessarily accommodate anything but a bed at this point. I think it was just utilized as a bedroom. It's more of storage space. It's currently, I believe, it's 7 by less than 10, which wouldn't qualify as a bedroom according to today's guidelines and codes. So what's going to happen with that is that's going to be eliminated into the larger space. So the bedrooms don't change as far as the number and the design. So if Title V still holds true and we're utilizing the 110 gallons per per the system, we should be able to accommodate that correctly. Bathroom should not really have an effect on that.
This is the same one?
It is, it's just a little bigger in the back, so it's just in top.
Oh, great, thank you.
Kaz, we now have the profile for the septic system that we were waiting for.
Okay, great. Yeah, again, that's not part of my scope, so
Right.
I really didn't get involved in that. I was under the impression that there was a repair that was being made, because it is an older system. So I think that I thought that was being handled. Are there any questions on that? Because I might not be able to answer them 100%, but I might be able to give you some insight on it.
Well, whatever you could tell us might be helpful. That there was a cesspool on the lot? Is that true?
Again, that's beyond my
Okay.
my knowledge.
I could probably answer the questions.
There was a cesspool that was
It's,
currently being used, or no?
in the original document that's posted, that is what the septic system looked like. So it was the box with the junction box and 2 of the pits. So rather than fail it, and also tear up all of the existing vegetation that was over it, we proposed an upgrade or a repair of that system, and it's gone through the health, it went through the health department a while ago, and the work's been done.
Right.
And so, so the plan you have now has the new septic on it. And we went this way so that none of the vegetation would have to be disturbed, none of the trees. The Carmen Shea was able to work around that to do, put in the pieces for the septic system.
So there's a new, you're telling us there's a new septic?
As of
Or
this
is
week.
there a revision of the old septic?
The box stayed, if I have the right terminology, the junction box was replaced, and there's a new field. And that's the plan you have. Do you have that?
So well, it says the existing 1,000-gallon septic tank appears as though it's been preserved.
Yes.
And then,
I didn't need to upgrade that because I had, it services the 3 bedrooms that I have.
right, but I'm just trying to ascertain if it's new.
So that stayed, that's, the original is there. And then, so out on this plan that you see, those 2 circles will be decommissioned, and beyond that, there is a field, which should be on the plan that you, do you still
Right.
have my
Yes.
copy so I can?
I do.
Okay. And I have all the, yeah, okay, thank you.
That's right here. That's the one that she gave us. Oh, you have that? Okay.
Thank you.
So where's the new leaching field? Maybe I'm looking right at it. I apologize if I am.
Yes, that's on this larger
Which one?
plan. On the first page, Marge, we have the larger plan. You can see the leach field.
Okay.
It's, basically, it's to the northwest corner of the lot, beyond where the 2 failed leach pits were. It's drawn in there.
In the northwest corner,
Yep,
Yes.
near where it says approximate location of the existing.
on the septic plan that you have. You should have a copy of the septic plan now. This is what we were waiting for.
Okay.
If you look at the first page of
I
that, the
see, so
northwest.
that is not on the large.
That's not on the larger plan, no. That's why I was asking for it. I
I
kept
see.
looking, thinking, where is the information about the septic? I just couldn't find it. So, yeah, that's all shown, and the test pits are here, all the information for the soil horizons, which is what I was interested in seeing.
Okay.
Elevation of the groundwater has been established. The size of the septic tank is established at 1,000 gallons. In fact, it's the existing tank. That's not being changed.
Right.
It's just a proposal for the leach field. And what is at what stage of the septic repair are we looking at as of today?
I think he finished today,
So it's finished, it's all in?
yes.
Dan, is there any report from the Board of Health?
Yeah, we also, you want to make the comment?
Yeah, why don't you
You
give
want to
those
do that
comments
now, or
now?
I'll wait, I mean, if you want to do something,
I've seen them ahead of time, so I would like to have those entered into the record now.
that would be good, okay.
All right, so the buildings, they had one, project is by right property, has LOMA in effect. The Board of Health, property is permitted by Board of Health for 3 bedrooms. The addition of any habitable space that meets the definition of a bedroom in Title V would be considered an increase in flow. Existing and proposed floor plans to be reviewed upon submission of the Buildings Department. Title V inspection is required whenever a change of footprint is proposed. Note the location of the septic and restrict equipment, as well as traffic over non-load bearing components. Setback and access to septic components must be maintained. And then the conservation agent's comments. Proposed addition in area of existing hardscape, no removal of native vegetation for addition, no increase in flow or bedrooms, just expansion of interior space, septic system upgrade from existing cesspool to Title V system. This upgrade is already in progress. New Board of Health agent was not aware that the flood zone is jurisdictional under Mashpee wetland bylaws. Otherwise, we would have been informed about it prior to construction. In the interest of moving things along, the commission can either review the septic plan and approve it as part of the proposed RDA, or request a continuance with a revised RDA filing to include septic upgrade. Yeah, the agent recommends that commission review septic plans as part of the current filing, instead of requesting a continuance with the condition that the area of disturbance from the septic be mitigated with native plantings. Agent recommends a negative determination.
So it's all done, but has it received its Title V certificate yet?
They
Has it
have-
been inspected?
Not that we know of.
Does it mention it, or?
Just doesn't mention it.
That's supposed to happen at the end of this, I don't know, think it won't happen tomorrow because of the holiday, but next week. That's my
Okay.
understanding.
So obviously that has to come back, you know.
They've been out twice.
Who's been out twice?
Someone from the
board?
health department, yeah.
Someone from the health?
Yep. Drew was at my house. I was there when he did the tour.
Mhm. I'm only very sensitive to this because I've gone through it 3 times as a homeowner. And it's, particularly in Mashpee, such a huge
We just try to do things the right way.
issue. I
Keep
know,
trying.
I'm sure you do. No, I'm
Yep.
sure you do. It just appears as though if it hasn't received its certificate yet, it should be mitigating. I mean, that should be part of the whole discussion if it's going to move forward tonight. And it sounds like Drew said there's no need to ask for an extension or a continuance as long as that any approval is subject to Title V, right? I mean, that makes sense. And there may be other things, but.
Other questions from the commissioners? No? Any questions?
No.
Charlie?
No?
Okay, anyone from the audience that would like to question or comment? Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion on an RDA.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it sounds like Drew has recommended that we move for a negative determination for Donna Snyder on the Show Road for the proposed addition to the single-family dwelling with the condition that the septic system, I'd sort of feel better about it if we had I don't know, a better presentation of what the septic system is now. It looks like it's been updated, but it must be at least 20 years old, right? It's got to be 20 years
Yeah.
old. Yeah. So, motion with the condition that they come back after they have had an inspection and a certificate has been awarded, or the Board of Health has signed off on it. Sounds as though the Board of Health hasn't even signed it.
Not to what the notes say, no.
Yeah. That would be my motion, but subject to, obviously, anyone else who wants to make an amendment on it.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Aaron. Now we can open it up for discussion. In terms of one of our main interests, we would want to add mitigation for the entire area that the septic has been installed into for all that disturbed soil. We want to make sure that that's mitigated out. Beyond that, there's no other requirements that the agent has asked for. So if you would like to.
Well, can I ask a question, since we're in
Yes.
discussion? Is it your opinion, as the chair, that there is not a necessity for any condition on getting the inspection, and a sense that, it's just, that, you know, you have 3 bedrooms, no, or 2 bedrooms now, you're adding on 3 bedrooms, so if it went to 5, then you'd have a different formula, obviously.
Right.
And I understand, and I, respect that there's gonna be alternate use there, but it would just be a good, smart thing, I think.
Excuse
the
me,
town-
Marjorie.
Yeah,
Did you hear that the town inspects the plans? The building department looks at the plans prior to issuing a permit. And they also inspect the property to ensure that the 3 bedrooms are maintained. This has always been the policy in Mashpee. This is through the Board of Health and the building department, not through conservation.
I understand, that's what I was asking.
And Title V has nothing to do with bathrooms. You can have as many bathrooms as you want. The whole idea is occupancy. It's bedrooms only. So they're maintaining 3 bedrooms, they're staying with 3 bedrooms. The Board of Health is verifying that, and so is the building department. So I'm not sure why we need to condition anything.
Well, because the
It's not our
homeowner says that
purview.
it hasn't been approved
It
yet.
is not our purview. It has been approved by the Board of Health. The plans have been.
As part of the discussion, the Board of Health did okay the system to be constructed. We were not notified. The health agent was not aware that the lot was land subject to coastal flow. Before any of that work was done, that should have been brought before the Conservation Commission for us to take a look at under an RDA, if that's what the applicant wanted to file. And if we were not happy with that, or we felt as though it wasn't enough information, then we could have rejected that RDA and asked for a full notice of intent. But you can't do any of that work if this work is being done without us being notified. And this is what the case was. That's why I wanted to see the information about the septic system, which is now in the ground. We do have it, and we have all the soil logs. It is a typical Title V system. It's stated with the engineer's stamp on it that it's 330 gallons per day, which is a 3-bedroom home. The groundwater elevation is estimated, high water, to be 120 inches, and the bottom of the leach field looks to be about 5.45 feet above the groundwater. And typically, a Title V asks for 5 feet. But it is a standard Title V system. It is not an IA, it's not a denitrification system.
Look, my concern, Tom, I appreciate your history lesson there, but I was in the legislature when we passed Title V, so I'm pretty familiar with it and with the amendments. And I'm certainly not looking to have any sort of interference with any homeowner who has done exactly what I've done as a homeowner over the past 30 years. So I'm anticipating potential problems that always seem to crop up if something isn't, in the beginning, approved through the process, and then by the time it comes here for a vote, there aren't any questions. So it's due diligence. I hope you respect that. It's due diligence, that's all. So if this commission would like to amend my motion and take off the condition, you're certainly free to do that. I'm not looking to be an obstructionist. I think I was cognizant of what Drew said in his comments that Dan shared, and the mitigating factors, and the process was just not the process, the due process from the homeowner was obviously in good faith, but it just was not done in the manner in which ideally it would be. But if you'd like to amend it, go ahead.
Is there anyone that would like to amend the motion that's on the table?
Well, I guess I would vote to amend that, and I would support our conservation agent's comments. I view this as an extremely small addition, a very conservative group. They have a Title V approved already by the Board of Health. We can't do anything about that. We have a Board of Health in this town because they have the power to do that. If they didn't do what they were supposed to do, that's certainly not their problem. That's the Board of Health's problem. And these plans are scrutinized to make sure that those 3-bedroom maintain 3 bedrooms, and more than ever. So in other words, those plans are maintained. But the idea about closets and bedrooms, bathrooms, that's not part of Title V. You won't find that anywhere in the state, Title V. It's just bedrooms, but the town does due diligence to make sure that that maintains the 3 bedrooms. And I have faith in that process.
So Marjorie, would you propose to amend your motion to remove?
Well, I would need, if Tom was recommending that we use the language of the agent, then I would ask Dan to read that back, if
Okay.
that's going to be part of a condition, and then we could add it.
The conservation agent? Or
Drew
no?
said this should be, he recommended a negative
He was asking for
determination.
mitigation in all the disturbed
With
areas.
mitigation, yeah.
Yes.
Is that the section that you'd like to add?
Yes, that
Okay.
was what he asked for, mitigation in the disturbed areas.
Is that the totality of Drew's recommendation?
Yeah, so agent recommends the commission review the septic as part of the current filing. Instead of requesting continuance to the condition, the area of disturbance from septic upgrade be mitigated with native plantings. That was the part.
Well, I'll accept that. Is that what you're asking me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I have no objection.
okay. And is there a second to that amendment? Just so that,
I second it.
okay. So that what we're looking at is to vote on an RDA that requires us to review the septic plan, which is why I called for this. We have reviewed. The septic system is in place, for the most part, completed, hasn't been inspected. That's not our purview. The tank is, it should have come before us long before now. And the mitigation would be the condition that you would place on the determination of applicability.
On the determination of,
Applicability, the RDA. That's what's
Yes.
before us, is the request.
Yep.
Okay. Then I'll call for a roll call vote on that. Marjorie?
yes,
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Tom?
Aye.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yes.
And in the interest of protection of groundwater, I will vote no. Motion carries. Yeah, let's keep that in the file.
thank you.
I'm going to keep this. Three. Okay. Now calling the 6:15 hearing for Stephen and Phyllis Fagel, 2 Cross Tree Way, proposed raise and replace existing dwelling and appurtenances, Title V septic system, pool, patio, hardscaping, and landscaping. Representative Cape and Islands Engineering. This is continued from October 27th for additional information. It is an NOI. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant. As the chairman just mentioned, this project was first opened 2 weeks ago. It was continued for providing additional information and a couple of revisions to the plan. Quick recap. This is a complete tear down and rebuild of a single-family residence. The proposed house also includes a proposed pool, proposed mitigation plantings, proposed invasive species removal and management, and a proposed new denitrifying Title V septic system. So the project was, or the application was continued to tonight for a couple of reasons. One was to add a dewatering system for the purpose of construction, particularly installation of the footings if they happen to fall within the reach of the groundwater. The groundwater was also noted on a test pit information that was added to the plan. Groundwater is roughly just above elevation 2 at about elevation 2.3. So we feel like some of the areas where the footing is going to be near that elevation 2, dewatering may be necessary. The pool information now includes what type of treatment system is going to be. It's going to be a saltwater pool treatment. The depth of the pool is proposed to be a 6-foot deep pool. So the pool itself is not located within the reach of groundwater. But some of the footings may be within the reach of groundwater. So the dewatering system is shown on the plan, and the detail is also shown. There was also some discussions about the removal of 8 pitch pines on the property, on the back of the property. Initially, I believe back in May, there was a meeting with the agent. Drew and Tyler met on site and reviewed that these 8 pitch pines are being infested with a beetle. And at the time, it was recommended that they all be removed, but then there was a question at the first hearing about 3 of the pitch pines to the north of the existing path that they are not as infected. So there was a letter submitted for this hearing by Tyler Gadrau, and he asked that we read this letter for the record. The letter goes as follows. Dear Drew and Daniel, on May 10, 2022, myself and Drew had a meeting at 2 Cross Street Way to discuss the tree removal of the 8 pitch pines located on the south portion of the site around the existing lawn areas. As noted on site, each of the proposed pines to be removed have visible damage from what appears to be the black turpentine beetle. During the hearing for the first notice of intent application, there was a question as to whether the removal of 3 pines would be necessary as the damage appears to be minimal. Below is a report outlining the reasonings for the removal of these trees in their entirety as it pertains to the proper eradication of the insect. ELS proposes that this be presented to the Conservation Commission to be sure they have the available information before making a final determination as to whether the removal serves as a best environmental practice for the site. ELS and Cape and Islands representative Mark Dibb conducted a site visit on November 1st, 2022. We tagged the 5 approved pitch pines to be removed on orange tape and the remaining 3 pitch pines with white tape. While on site, beetle damage to the bark from boring could be observed on all 8 trees, and minor damage to the trees, and there was a couple of pictures included in this form that shows the tagging and the damage of those barks, or the bark trees. Although minor damage, the damage to the bark shows that the infestation has spread and infected all the trees that are proposed to be removed. The reason for the request to remove all these trees is that first, the inevitable decline of these trees, of the 3 additional trees would pose a threat to the proposed construction. Rather than requesting to remove the removal once the trees have been compromised, we are requesting to do so now. While noting the importance of canopy trees within the buffer zone, the client has agreed to mitigate the removal in a 1-to-1 ratio of both the Eastern Arborvitae and American Holly. The UMass Extension's Black Turpentine Beetle Management Protocol summarizes the treatment of the black turpentine beetle as follows. Black turpentine beetle prefers weakened or damaged pines, but is also capable of attacking healthy trees. Prevention is an important management strategy to reduce the attack. Drought and storm damage can cause widespread stress, making trees susceptible to attack. Other stresses that can increase chances of attack include mowing damage, string trimmer damage, pruning during insect activity, soil compaction and excavation. Cultural practices should focus on keeping pines stress-free and growing rapidly. Damaged or declined trees should be removed quickly so as to not further attract black turpentine beetles to the area. In summary, the removal of trees in their entirety are proposed as a measure to limit the spread of the insect, and adequate measures have been put in place to mitigate the removal to ensure wildlife habitat be sufficient in the area following construction. We are seeking approval to remove the 8 trees identified for these reasons outlined in this report. So as noted in this report, all the trees have been infested. Whether the 3 trees that are least infected will eventually become as damaged as the other 5 is just a matter of time. All of us who have been looking at these pitch pines and the infestation for beetles over the past 20 years, it does not take long before about the lowest 90% of the tree is completely bare from needles, and the only needles are left on the very top of the tree, and then they completely die. So the proposal to remove all 8 trees and replacement with 8 new trees that would not be subject to this beetle, we believe is a better management of the site. It's better for the habitat and for the resources, wildlife resources in this area. So we believe that the proposed changes to the plans, the additional details, and this report about the trees is sufficient for this hearing to be closed. We expect that you can condition it in a way that we can move forward with this construction. The major improvements to the sites summarized is the enhanced nitrogen removal septic system, which is currently not provided on the site, the additional mitigation and native planting that is proposed within the buffer zone, the almost 7,100 square feet of invasive removals in terms of removal of the Phragmites on the property, and the removal of damaged pitch pines and infested pitch pines and replacing them with native trees one-to-one. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to the commissioners for questions or comments. I know there were questions about the depth of the pool at our last hearing. Seems as though that's all been answered, but
At the last hearing, though, refresh my memory, Mr. Chairman, they were going to get back to us with that information that we requested, even if it was not a condition. And did anything come back through the agent? Did you receive anything back about that? That's my recollection, too, is that the depth of the pool.
Right, that's one of the revisions on the plan. So the depth of the
Right.
pool is 6 feet is noted on the plan.
And there was some discussion about, and I don't have it in front of me, so I'm hoping that you did include this. There was a discussion about the pool being 8 feet and I don't have the same drawing here, but what you'd submitted for the very first hearing. And there was a 2-foot difference. Am I remembering that correctly? From the notes, does anyone else recall that?
there was no depth on the pool at our last hearing. And
Right.
I believe the elevation of the groundwater hadn't been identified. So there was concern about how deep is the pool? Is it going to intersect the groundwater table to put that in? Is there going to be a need for dewatering on the site?
Right.
And at that point, Mr. Dibbs wasn't comfortable or didn't have the information, so it was apparent that we would continue the hearing to get those.
In order to get that information, that's why I was just asking.
Right.
if
Right.
it came in since the
And
last
the
meeting.
3 trees that
To
were
address
subject
that.
to
Yeah.
an additional site visit, and that's been conducted, and we have the letter for our files.
Yeah, and Marjorie, if I can just add on to that. Currently on the site where the proposed pool is shown, most of that area is currently occupied by the existing house and the decks and so forth. But the existing grades just outside of that are about elevation 4. The proposed pool deck is elevation 10. The pool is 6 foot deep, so the pool bottom is elevation 4. So the pool is roughly sitting over existing grades, elevation
At
4.
existing grade.
So groundwater is not interfering with the pool.
So has that changed, though, since the last hearing? I thought there was a 2-foot difference.
No, the
Yeah,
information was just
the
adding
elevation.
the depth and the treatment to the pool. That's what was added, the pool depth, which is 6 feet, and the treatment, which is saltwater treatment.
So if the pool is 6 feet, which is not, I believe, does anybody else recall this? Do we have that in any notes? I thought it was 8, but,
Yeah, the original plan did not call it out at all.
It didn't, there was no depth at all.
yeah, but didn't we want to know what it was?
We did.
Yeah. So, and I thought somebody was giving a guesstimate that it was, I thought it might have been the homeowner, but I will stand corrected if I'm wrong, that she said 8 feet. And so if the elevation,
An 8-foot deep pool is,
an
It's
8-foot
pretty
deep pool
deep.
would be 2 feet past where it should be, right? Am I right?
it's pretty deep. I mean, they could do it, but the application is 6 foot deep,
And it's a saltwater pool.
saltwater treatment,
Yeah.
filtering.
So you're saying it's on the application?
Right, the revised plan have the information requested, the 6-foot depth
And that's on your full application, is that what you're saying?
in the revised plan and the
Yes.
revised narrative, yes,
That's what I'm asking.
yes,
So you did comply.
yes.
There you go. Well, if that's the case, then it seems as though they've met that particular requirement that we were concerned about last time out.
Other questions or comments from the commissioners? Charlie?
No.
Tom, you all set?
Yes.
Any questions from people that are here in the audience? None. Dan, could you give us the comments for this project from the Building Department, Board of Health, and the agent as well?
Absolutely. So the building department proposal requires special permit from the ZBA. The Board of Health, proposed septic plans to be reviewed upon submission to the Health Department. Proposed floor plans to be reviewed upon submission to the Buildings Department. Rodent inspection by a health agent and asbestos inspection by a licensed inspector required, with abatement if necessary. Required setbacks from edge of in-ground pool are 10 feet from tank and 20 feet from SAS. And conservation, resource area, LSCSF, BVW, salt marsh, land under the ocean. This is continued from 10/27/22 for additional information on pool depth / drainage, assessment of hazardous trees and soil profiles for septic upgrade, a revised plan to be submitted and reviewed. Barring any other issues, agent recommends close and issue.
So, Raul, do we have the soil profiles?
Yes, there's a table, kind of like in the middle of the proposed layout and the existing layout. There is a table of the profile right there, snuck in the middle.
Oh, I see it, okay.
It's the typical sandy Mashpee soils.
Yeah.
Groundwater around elevation 2.3, typical in this peninsula. The groundwater in these peninsulas are controlled by the tide and the creek on either side of the peninsula.
I know on a similar job, Raul, we, for the dry wells, we had some concerns regarding their capability of taking in as much water as they might need to. And instead of using typical round configuration dry well, and I forget the project, but they were proposed as trenches.
Right. Similar to a project we did probably a couple of months ago, because of the existing grades being so low, groundwater being at elevation 2, most of these dry wells, instead of the typical round pit with stone around them, these are trenches with a perforated pipe through the trench, and they're rather shallow. We have a detail on the plan that shows they're 18 inches in depth of crushed stone, 24 inches in width. One of them is almost the length of the entire side of the house, and it's noted on the plan as 2 foot wide by 120 feet long. And the other one is on the southern side, 2 by 30 feet long. And the reason for this different design is because of groundwater. We cannot put a 2.5 foot deep dry well, the circular dry wells, because then it will be just sitting above groundwater.
And what's the separation from the bottom of the leach field to the groundwater?
With the general approval permit, we have a 4-foot allowed separation to groundwater, and we're proposing I believe it's 4.2.
4.2. It's a DNIT system.
It is an enhanced nitrogen removal system, yes.
There's also some questions in the first hearing about the proposed rinse station. Could you give us some information about that?
So the intention on the rinse station is just a circular fence with a shower, and that's all it is. It's just next to the proposed path that goes from the proposed patio to the existing, actually the modified pier. And it's just up to the side of it, and it's just a circular fence with a shower head.
And the drainage for that is going to go into those trench drains?
No, this is at an existing elevation of about 3, so there's no way that we can send flow by gravity upwards. So it will just leach into the ground through the crushed stone underneath it. The current area is mulch in that location, so we'll just be replacing existing mulch planting with a rinse station.
I'm all set. Any other questions before I call for a motion? Although I don't think I went to the audience on this one. I don't think I went to the audience on this one. I'm just going to check because with all of our discussions back and forth, I don't know if I went to the audience for any questions or comments that they may have. I may have, but I don't remember. I don't want to leave them out. Anybody? No? Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion if there is one. It's a notice of intent.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. Agent comments, I just want to make sure that I've got all. All right, I move that the revised plan be submitted, reviewed, barring any other issues. He recommends close and issue so for this project. I move close and issue, and there are no conditions. No? Is there additional language you want, Mr. Chairman?
I'd like to see mitigation for the
You would.
trees that are going to be removed.
That are still
There
not
are
on
8.
there.
They're on the plan.
There are 8
So-
altogether, correct?
Mhm.
So let's add the condition again of the agent's language. Could you read that back for me, Dan?
Assessment of hazardous trees and soil profiles for the septic upgrade. Is it the part?
Again?
Where am I? Assessment of hazardous trees and soil profiles for the septic upgrade.
Is that it? Is that
That's it, yeah.
so amended? So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Aaron. I'll open that up for discussion. Motion on the table. So if I'm hearing this right, you want to close an issue with mitigation for the 8 trees that are being removed.
Your language is always better.
That's what we have on the table.
That's what we have on the table.
No other discussion? I'll call for a vote. Marjorie?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
Charlie?
Yes.
I'll vote no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Has Drew seen this letter? Okay. Now calling the 6:18 hearing for Joseph Anzavino, 393 Monomoskoye Road. This is a proposed raise and replacement of an existing single-family dwelling, new Title V septic system, and landscaping. Representative is the owner. This is an... David Schofield will be representing. Okay. My agenda says Representative South, so that's been changed. Okay, and it's a notice of intent, and for the commissioner's information, there is a pending DEP number, but we don't have that as of yet.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And
No. Are you, can you mute your computer and call in this phone number? I can tell you what it is. It's 508-539-1449. Please. There you go. David?
go. All right. David? Yes. Oh, yes. Do you have a good echo? I have it muted. Is that okay?
Go for it. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Yeah, now I'm going to get you on speaker. Okay. All right, very good. Good evening. My name is David Schofield, representing Joseph Anzavino at 393 Monomoskoye Road. This project involves the raising and replacing of the existing home with a new dwelling, as well as a new septic system and landscaping, finished landscaping. So, yeah, this property it's a 0.57 acre property located about 1,000 feet from the point, Monomoskoye Point, not located in the Zone 2. We conducted soil testing out there. We had very good results with sands and loamy sands, less than 2 minute per inch perk rates, and we installed monitoring wells to let it go through the tidal cycle. So we're getting high groundwater throughout the monthly cycle, and what we designed was a leaching field that is 5 feet above the estimated seasonal high groundwater table. We have 1,500 gallon 2-compartment septic tank with a D-box, and we are relocating the gas, all the utilities we do as well. We have we're proposing a new water line going around to the right side of the property as shown in the plan, and the gas line which goes through the the proposed septic system.
And the reason we're before you is that this property is within a AE flood zone, 100-year flood zone. Basically, the whole of the property, with the exception of the portion right by the water's edge. There's that is the VE zone down in that area. So the grading is basically staying the same. We are well outside of 200 feet from the edge of water. And yeah. Just, are there any questions that I can answer? You're looking for additional information.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to the commissioners first for questions or comments that you might have.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
We're in a
Yes,
question
we're in
period.
questions, yep.
Right, I'm interested in, there appears to be an asterisk here that says the system is designed for a garbage grinder, but the use of a garbage grinder may shorten the life of a septic system. And I'm wondering if that was either raised by the Board of Health or by our agent, and whether or not that has impacted the plan at all? That notation?
I'm not hearing you that well, but I heard the comment about the garbage grinder and the system being designed for a garbage grinder. And did you ask that, had the health agent seen the plan? Was that the question?
Yes, the question was not only, did you get any feedback, are we looking at this notation that's in bold underlined because of the Board of Health or Housing, or is this your notation, and are we taking it out?
That is something I put in my design criteria. It's probably been there for 20 years. I really haven't revisited it, to be perfectly honest, in the time. I still stand by that. I mean, I don't like them. A lot of people want garbage grinders. I'm a septic engineer, so I don't particularly like them. But this system is designed for a garbage grinder. The size of the leaching field is 50% larger, and there's a 2-compartment tank provided that meets all the requirements for it. So, if it's designed for it, that's the meaning of the notation, is that it is designed for it. And I've never had a garbage grinder. I've never seen them. I've never had the need for it personally, but some people do want that, especially people coming from the city.
We city people just need to grind up all of our vegetables. I'm just not sure. Dan, can I ask you if this is something that Drew showed any concern over?
No, it's not.
No? Okay.
Can I ask, it says disturbed areas will be restored to natural state. What does that mean specifically, natural state? Can you elaborate?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that at all.
At the end, it says, at the bottom of the page, it says, restored to a natural state. Your disturbed areas will be restored to a natural state immediately following installation. Just wondering what that means,
Oh, this
natural
is-
state.
Yeah, you're talking about from the narrative, where it'd be,
I'm sorry.
where I said disturbed areas be raked and seeded immediately following the system, so that full stabilization is achieved. Yeah, is that what we're talking about?
I believe so. It just says that at the end of your narrative, it says disturbed areas will be restored to a natural state. I was just curious what you mean by natural state. Is that lawn? Is that, what specifically is it?
Oh, I believe I'm looking at something different than you are. Restored to natural state, I think what's meant by that is just that it would be returned to a lawn as it's a lawn now. I think that was the meaning in it. If, the landscaping plan hasn't been produced, I don't know if you're going to want to see that, given the location relative to the resource areas and all that. But that hasn't been produced. That is something that will be produced in the future, though.
David, could you define the future? Are you talking next week, next month, next year? When would that landscaping plan be available?
Jay, can you speak to that?
You want to come to the table, Jay, and speak into the microphone, please?
I think we're going to be doing that after, all the work is complete, and we're going to restore it back to the natural state. In the front, we're not going to have any grass anymore. That's going to be removed. And in the back, there's a small piece of grass. We're just going to, obviously, probably just blend into it. So there's not a lot of landscaping that's going to be done except for the foundation plantings, et cetera. So I can supply you with a plan at that time, once the grades are, and everything's established and approved.
Okay.
Will you state your name for the record?
Joseph Anzavino, 393 Monomoskoye Road.
Other questions or comments, concerns from the commissioners?
You're the owner.
Yeah, in the 20 years.
Are you a city guy that likes his
No,
garbage disposal?
that's just one of those things I know they add up our way, sometimes it's necessary.
I'm just jazzing.
No other questions? Charlie, any questions?
None.
Okay, thank you. I've got a couple of questions. It's a full foundation according to the plan, and I remember reading somewhere not habitable.
Yes.
So what is the clearance between the finished grade and the top of the foundation? A foot or two at the most, or?
Yeah, that's right. I think that's probably the range of what the finished grade is in the top concrete.
Okay. Have you scheduled this project with the zoning board of appeals yet?
Yes,
You have. Do you have a hearing date?
yes.
And what is that?
And December, I'm going to say 14th, right about that.
You don't have in front of you, but mid-December?
Yeah, last one. I don't have it on me. I have my folder, but I could look it up if it's necessary. Yeah, the 14th.
The 14th. And David, did you mention that the entire lot is land subject to coastal flow?
Yes.
Okay. So the existing house is 1,385 square feet. The proposed dwelling is 2,323 square feet. And it says that a 9.3% of the total
Those are
lot coverage.
footprint areas, yes.
Okay, and we're going from a two-bedroom to a four-bedroom, correct?
Yes.
So there is an increase in flow, and it's a standard Title V, it's not a D-Night system, IA, no?
That's correct.
I was in front of the lot today. I noticed there's one probably 4-inch pipe that's sticking up out of the ground. I assume that's a monitoring well for the septic?
Right, from 2 years ago, probably, yes.
And there are two, what appear to be access driveways on either side of the lot to houses behind that house?
This is my neighbor's.
Okay, one of those access roads has, it looks to be about a 6-inch PVC pipe with a cap on it. Could you tell me?
Those are on which side?
That would be,
Looking at the house from the street?
hold on, I'll tell you in a second, because I took a picture of it.
On my property?
No, it's, there's one property line, it's 399 Monomoskoye, that goes way down to the Little River. There was a white pickup truck of some kind. that
Yeah,
was
it's a
probably
small
ice.
home, yes.
Okay, and then the
That must
pipe
be
that
part
I'm
of
talking
theirs.
about is in the roadway of 389 Monomoskoye. It's the other side of your lot. It's a good-sized pipe, and I was just wondering if that
That's
was,
the end of the leaching field.
that's part of their leaching field?
The house I'm looking at,
Because we don't have any information about the lots on either side here, so.
lots of the, looking at, from the street to the right, Scallow's home, that's a leaching field.
Okay, so that's a gas vent for his leaching field?
I believe so.
Okay. I just saw it, and
Yeah, nothing to do.
I didn't have the
with me.
right to enter that property, so I didn't want to go look at it, but I could see it from the road.
I moved everything out as far as away from the water as possible, and
Yeah.
everything's, I don't think there's any work being done within 200 feet.
You know, one of the, you know, it's a question, it's more of a concern than a question, but I'm going to bring it up. This entire lot is subject to land subject to coastal flow. You're increasing the footprint by almost 1,000 square feet. You're doubling the bedroom capacity. You're putting in a Title V system. All on land subject to coastal flow. I don't, that's why I asked about the ZBA hearing. I don't know how you do that. How do you increase a footprint of a house in land that's subject to coastal flow? Where's all that water going to go when the coastal flow happens? You know, if it were a house that was elevated, that had flow vents in the foundation, the water could pass
Yes,
through.
I have those in the plan.
I didn't see
Oh,
that.
the flood, the construction of the foundation, yes, it does have, it
Maybe I missed it.
might not be on that foundation plan, but it's on the actual plans. On the garage is at elevation 11, and then we have all our flood, we're at first at 11.5, and then all the flood vents are in the foundation. I know they did the calculations of about 300 square feet per flood vent, and they added them all into the foundation.
So there's flood vents
Yes,
for the
sir.
garage.
Yeah, all on the foundation,
The
And-
entire house?
Yes. That stuff has all been calculated. Spoke with everybody in the process, make sure I had it correct. This house would be small compared to what's on my street.
Oh, I see them.
It's modest.
So, David, I generally ask, why not an IA system? I mean, we can't get much closer to the water than where we are. This is all new equipment that's going in. Was there any consideration at all to doing a D-Night system?
Well, after speaking with the Board of Health, I'm a firm believer in keeping it simple, actually. So I have considered that. I personally have a technology at the test center myself, but yeah, I have also heard of the regulation that may be coming to all the Cape requiring D-Night for everything. So I know that may be coming, but no, I didn't consider it.
I have no further questions or comments. Anyone from the audience that would like to question or comment the project? Okay, then, I'll accept a motion. Before I do, we still do not have a DEP number for this, so I can accept a motion, we can discuss it, it may pass, it may not. We can't release the project until we have a DEP number. We don't necessarily have to have another hearing, but we do have to have that number.
I believe they were looking for,
Yeah, the filing wasn't complete in their end from the
it's all
electronic
in the
filing,
process.
so
They
yeah,
asked,
the additional items, that should be coming forthwith shortly.
The concern that I have is when a DEP number is issued, they sometimes give some particular areas of interest that we might need to pay some attention to. So I don't want to have the commission just ignore that. Like I said, we can entertain a motion here tonight, and we'll see where that goes. But until the DEP number comes in, there'll be no order of conditions issued.
they were,
Understood.
this is from the DEP.
Yes.
Hi Jay, can you please email me a PDF of all the supporting documents for the NOI? So they said, then I can review it and I'll issue a DE and a file number for you as soon as I receive that. So I thought that was something that was done.
So they're still waiting for the receipt of the supporting documents for the
I
notice?
I thought all the documents I received either, that I've sent you or that I receive after this meeting, I send it to them and then they issue it. That's how I understood it when I spoke with Andrew.
Okay.
And that's what we proposed. You guys get this all done and then we'll get you DEP as long as you do have your DEP before anything goes forward.
So they're still not in receipt of those as of tonight?
They take, excuse me?
As of tonight, those documents have not been
Drew
sent?
said I would have it before, after the meeting. He understood that that's how it was going to proceed. It would take so many days.
Okay.
Which would you prefer, Mr. Chairman, a continuance until such time?
Well, we discussed this matter several months ago, and it was the feeling of the commission, rather than to continue a hearing, and to proceed with the assumption that the DEP will issue the number. No order of conditions will be released until that number is issued. And if the DEP has concerns that were overlooked by the commission, then we would have to come back to the table and address those concerns. But in the interest of moving things along so that the hearing with the ZBA can take place on December 14th, I think you said,
Yes, sir.
and you can file all of this with the Board of Health to keep the process going. We could, as a commission, approve a project, if that's what we decide to do tonight, with the condition that nothing will be released until the DEP files the number with us and lets us know whether they have any additional concerns that we did not address.
That's exactly how Andrew explained.
Yeah, that's the law.
No, thanks.
Yeah. So with all of that in mind, I'll entertain whatever motion somebody would like to make.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be delighted to make the motion to move it forward, but I'm not really clear on what the language would be, so that, I think we all agree that it is it's against the laws, the rules, the regs to move it forward without it, but I'm not quite sure, because I don't see in Drew's comments that he has
There's-
requested any language.
Yeah, there's nothing in his comment to that.
In terms of what our agent has looked at, the agent recommends a close an issue with the condition of mitigation plantings to establish a buffer zone between lawn and salt marsh. And the property owner can work with the staff to determine a suitable species and the area of plantings. But I
Does anyone know if we can?
seem to remember in the hearing that there was no lawn to be put in, right? It was just all natural vegetation. But there would be some mitigation, if you're going to close an issue, I would assume that the motion would carry with it mitigation to be worked out between conservation staff and the owner.
There was no mention of the DEP issue.
Oh, yes, without the DEP, the order of conditions will be held until the DEP issues a number.
Well, I'm going to need some help, but how the language goes, it appears that it would go, you close an issue with the condition of mitigation plantings to establish the buffer zone between lawn and salt marsh. Property owner can work with staff, and also subject to DEP issuing, right, a number.
Yep.
I'm going to stop there, subject to DEP's issuance.
Right, so the order would be held up until.
So, and the order would be held until such time as DEP issues a number. How about that?
Okay.
Does that sound like good language?
It's your motion. I'm good with it.
Convoluted, but smart.
Sometimes they do get long.
What's that?
They do get long sometimes. There's a
Yeah,
lot-
they
there's a
do.
lot
I know.
going on.
It's all in good faith right here, and he
I
says he's gonna issue
totally
it.
understand.
Nothing.
Is there a
I've
second to
seen
that
it much
motion?
longer.
I second it.
Thank you, Aaron. So now I'll open it up for discussion.
I just think it's really important, and it's not overstretching, I don't think, and better safe than sorry.
Well, the motion for what is presented tonight is appropriate. You're asking to close and issue it with the mitigation that's necessary between whatever areas are disturbed in the salt marsh, and holding on to the order of conditions until such time that the DEP issues a number with or without additional conditions. While we're in discussion.
So amended, if I may.
Well, you have that in there.
Yeah, I did, good. But
Yeah.
your language was more, it clarified, I think.
Right. That's why we're having discussion.
That's
And
why we do.
While we're in discussion, I'm going to go back to the Title V system. This particular project has a hearing with the ZBA on the 14th. The state is having a hearing with the general public on the 16th. And that hearing with the state is about IA systems. The DEP has already been here. They've been to the Board of Selectmen. Dr. House has come and talked about the quality of the water. We all know what's going on. And when systems like this are proposed, typically I'm the person that asks, why not an IA system? We're going to be tearing up the ground, we're going to be putting in a new IA tank, or a new tank. Why not just assume the inevitable and go with the D-Night system?
Right.
But that's not part of this project. So that's what's presented before us.
Right, right. A year from now, it might be different.
It might be.
I'm sorry, were you talking to me? My audio just cut out. I had to call back in.
Oh, sure. We're in discussion right now on the motion that's on the table to close an issue. And I was referring to the septic system and the fact that it's not a D-Night system in our discussions. In light of the fact that the DEP has already have, and you can go onto their website right now, they have a draft of all the new regulations for Title V. And typical Title V tanks in coastal areas just, they don't work. They work, but they don't do much good for the resource area. And I mentioned that 2 evenings after the ZBA hearing for this particular project, the state is having a hearing for public comment on the new regulations. So those regulations are out there, they're in draft. Drafts usually become final, and then final is going to affect what's in the ground. So if we have a brand-new project that's before us, you know, I just would think that there'd be a little bit of a stronger consideration to go to a D-Night system.
Right, also as part of that, I went to a training on that when it was rolled out. I was down in Falmouth just, what was it, a couple weeks ago. Anyways, and I think it can be handled on a community basis with limits set based on the needs of the resources and things like that. And there is a 5-year period where towns can kind of come up with their plan and all that. There was talk of selecting one the best nitrogen system, which to me sounds problematic, sounds monopolistic. But it's out there. I know they're talking about implementation date of like 5 years from now, something like that. So, but on a note relative to nitrogen in this system, it is a leaching field that's 5 feet above groundwater, and there is denitrification that will take place when comparing this system compared to a cesspool that's very, very close to that. And just through the natural processes, it doesn't do, it's not at the level of a system designed for that to get to levels below 19 or whatever it is that their target level is. But it definitely does a better job than what's on the ground now.
Okay. Any other discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none. Marjorie, it's your motion. I'll ask you first for your vote.
Yes, sir. I'm a yes.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Tom?
Aye.
Thank you. Charlie?
No.
I vote no as well. Motion carries 3-2.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Good luck.
I'm sorry. I thought you'd be having dinner by now.
For the course.
Okay. Lost my agenda. I think that was our last hearing, correct? It's always nice to get to the last one. You have all the certificates of compliance.
It was very mean.
All right, so I'm going to go back up to our pre- and post-hearing agenda items. We have a administrative approval request for 10 Pompanesett Island Road, DEP number 0432992. It's for a previously approved coastal bank stabilization project. The resource areas are Barrier Beach, land subject to coastal storm flow, coastal dune, buffer zone to salt marsh, and land under ocean. This is a soft solution amendment of choir logs, plantings with organic fill base to add additional stabilization to coastal bank and dune areas. The project does meet performance standards for all resource areas present on the site, no expansion of the original project scope, and our agent recommends approval of this administrative request.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I request, I think I should recuse myself on this since I serve as the chair of the Bright Coves and the Papaneset Island villages.
Okay. So noted, Marjorie. You can listen, though.
I can listen.
Thank you.
I have deep interest.
Thank you. So typically, this would require a vote of the commission. So I would entertain a motion to approve this administrative request on behalf of our conservation agent, if there is one, and we'll go from there. Do we have a printout of that?
Yeah, it's in the pre-post.
That's what happens, that's what happens when you trash the binder.
Okay.
I thought I saw it at the beginning, but I didn't. I should have pulled this out earlier. As you perhaps have seen in your binder, there is a project overview from Wilkinson Ecological Design. And we have information about the bank. Is this the right one?
No, that's for the that's for
I'm sorry,
275.
I've got,
Just the first part is 10 Papaneset.
I got the wrong one.
Nope, you got the right one.
That's
It's
this one,
just
right here.
this.
Okay,
Yes,
and this
sir.
is the second
Yes,
piece,
sir.
okay, sorry.
So we'll get-
time to look at that? Charlie, have you had enough time to look at that letter from Wilkinson Ecological Design and the overview of this request? Does he have that? He probably doesn't. What I'm talking about.
No, I believe this was sent to everyone in the original
What's it?
email with the agenda. And the
Okay.
This was not, I just got this.
This is no, okay. Driveway to the east.
There might be a gentleman on Zoom. Maybe Charlie.
Jim Putnam, David Delvecchio. That's you. I don't know. Aaron, not interested in making a motion for this?
Sure, I would ask you what the procedure is. Is this the
Yeah,
first I would do?
it's an administrative, occasionally we will get an administrative request for approval without having to go through the entire filing process. This is a pre-existing job, it's got a DEP file number, and what is being asked for by our agent is our approval to go ahead with this work under administrative supervision.
So the language is I make a motion to approve the administrative request,
Yes,
and I make a motion.
okay, thank you. Is there a second to the motion to approve the request? Tom or Charlie?
This seems like a soft solution,
Yeah,
very minimal soft solution.
yeah. Okay, so you second the motion? Okay. So the motion is made and seconded. Any discussion about the request? There being none, I'll call for a vote. Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Tom?
Aye.
Charlie?
Yes.
Thank you. I vote yes as well. So we've got that piece done. There's also a discussion. This regards 275 Quiniquisette Avenue. It's a discussion regarding a forthcoming application. It's an informal presentation of a forthcoming permit request to gauge the commission's feedback. The resource areas are freshwater wetlands, riverfront, which is Quaker Run, existing active cranberry bogs. Project scope is the construction of condominium units with associated appurtenances, parking, and wetland restoration of the existing cranberry bogs. The applicant wishes to have an informal discussion about this proposal prior to filing for a permit. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good
It's been a
evening.
long night with technology, sorry about that.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Matthew Eddy, professional engineer with Baxter Nye Engineering and Surveying, representing Southworth Properties LLC, Willow Bend Country Club. With me here to my right is Jack McElhenney, who's the attorney for Willow Bend. Thank you for seeing us tonight. As was just read in by the chair, we are here just on an informal discussion for this project. We'd just like to get your thoughts and feedback on the project before we get into final design. The project that we're proposing, it will become part of Willow Bend. It's going to be a 14-unit, single-family development. And we've had several meetings over, I'm going to say about a course of a year with the town planner, with planning board at all conceptual levels. We've also met with Drew several times to review this project, to get his thoughts and feedback. And if he was here, hopefully he would agree that, he is supportive of the concept that we've presented so far, and I'll explain that, what I'm meaning by that as far as the proposed project and the mitigation that we're proposing. So with that, I'd just like to walk you through the site. Stacy, if you could you go to, there's the existing conditions plan, it's sheet 2.0. Nope. Yes. Yep. Nope. There you, yeah, there you go. Thank you. So the site address is 275 Quiniquisette Ave. This parcel was acquired by Willow Bend a couple of years ago. It actually falls pretty much within the center of Willow Bend. It's going to be brought in as part of the special permit for Willow Bend. That's where the planning board will become involved, and Jack will go through that briefly for you as well. The parcel area for the project, oh, great, my pointer just died. Sorry, my laser pointer just died. The parcel area for the project is approximately 5 acres, and of that, 3.5 acres are upland, and approximately 1.5 acres are wetlands. The overall project, when we're getting into design and when we come forward with a formal submission, will actually encompass about 8 acres, because we're going to be addressing mitigation through the surrounding bogs that Willow Bend owns as part of the mitigation for this project. The main parcel, I'm sure you're all familiar with Quiniquisette Ave. This parcel's almost directly across from the main entrance at Willow Bend Drive into where the country club is, where the golf club is. And this has about 600 feet of frontage along Quiniquisette Ave. As far as resources on the site, it's not mapped with any habitat, priority or estimated habitat. There are no certified vernal pools identified. For resource areas on the site, we have isolated vegetated wetlands. Of those, and if my pointer was working, I would point at them for you, but I highlighted them in green on that plan. You have one large one to the east, to the right side of the page. To the right is the east. You then have down, there you go, and then you have down to the, on the left side, just to the left of the red that you see, that there's 2 very small isolated vegetated wetlands, just very small pockets. And then that long green line you see to the left, that defines the edge of the bog, and then the other bog, which you see is identified as Bog 3. Those are the surrounding bogs surrounding this parcel. Those bogs are active. They also have bordering vegetated wetlands adjacent to them as well. As was also read in by the chair, the Quaker Run is to the west of the site. That we have identified and located the top of inland bank for that stream system that identifies the riverfront area. So the river, we have, we're in only about the outer 100 feet of the riverfront area, so the outer riparian falls along the western part of the project parcel. The existing site has an existing home on it, an existing single-family home. It's still utilized by Willow Bend for some of their work staff. That currently has a existing Title V septic system. The red line that you see up there, that defines the area that's currently disturbed on the parcel. It's over an acre in size of existing disturbance. And the majority of all of that disturbance falls within the conservation jurisdiction, the 0 to 100-foot buffer. So, and I think a point, which again, you'll probably hear me mention again, but again, this does have a Title V system. When we get into the proposed development, obviously that Title V system is going to be going away. The project will be connected to Willow Bend's wastewater treatment facility and the public sewer that they have, or it's private sewer for Willow Bend, I should say, but it's a wastewater treatment facility. So again, from a water quality standpoint, there's a substantial benefit there. So with that, again, if you could go to sheet 3, please, Stacy. To the one more to the left, the top left tab that you have. There you go. Great. Thank you. So that's the proposed layout that you're looking at. What you're seeing, the red line that I highlighted on there was just to kind of give you some overlay reference. That's the area that's currently disturbed on the existing site based on the single-family home that's there. So you see the shaded in gray, those are the footprints of the homes. They're going to be smaller, single-family detached homes. There's 14 of them. With that, I'm going to just turn it over to Jack quickly, and he's just going to just touch on the permitting process for Willow Bend and how this gets brought into Willow Bend. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, for the record, Jack McElhenney, attorney for Southworth Mashpee Properties. And as Matt was suggesting, we have had several meetings over the past year with the planning board and with the town planner to talk about this. As you saw, this is, it's a 5-acre site. We acquired it in 2019. And the overall Willow Bend site is 440 some odd acres. And we work under a special permit from the planning board. And essentially, any development that we do out there has to be approved by the planning board and go through a full site plan review, design review, et cetera, as part of that. And what we're proposing here is to essentially use existing approved permits that have already been issued by the planning board for the larger project, and which could be located in other areas on the 440 acres, and instead use those 14 permits here, essentially. So, you know, the idea is that it's not increasing the overall density of the Willow Bend project, but we are simply bringing in an additional 5 acres and using that. This is, you know, as you saw the plan, it's just a very natural site for another small neighborhood. It is within walking distance to the clubhouse and to the amenities. You know, we anticipate that most of the traffic would just be either pedestrian traffic, it's literally a couple hundred yards, or maybe golf carts using the internal paths. So, and, you know, the idea is obviously we'd like to get preliminary introductions of the project to the Conservation Commission and to the planning board before we start advancing on the design side of it. But it will go through a full planning board review and design review. And, you know, we anticipate that, you know, that would occur if we move forward sometime next spring, probably. So that's an overview of the permitting.
So with that, I will continue with this project description. So in addition to the 14 homes that are being proposed, to the right-hand side, that larger gray area that you see, kind of an oblong area, that's proposed to be a golf amenity. Right to the right of that, to the east, that is actually, and it's just off of the view of the plan sheet that you're looking at, that is the tee to Bay 1 on the golf course. And that's where there's a concession stand and so forth there. So the thought process with this is the 14 homes, a small little golf amenity there that then connects it to the tee at Bay 1. And so with that, I want to talk through just two other real quick items. Obviously, as we get into full design, drainage, stormwater management will be, you know, provided for this development, meeting DEP stormwater management policy and meeting the town of Mashpee requirements. And as I had noted before, the septic system will be going away from the existing and will be tying to the wastewater treatment plant that Willow Bend operates. So with that, Stacy, if you could go to it's sheet 3.1, the one with all the colored ones. The next tab over to your right. To the one, yeah, there you go. Yep, perfect, thank you. So what I am showing there, and I have you, I'm gonna pass these out if I could real quick. You have these already, but I cleaned, it's exact same information, but I cleaned up the graphics a little bit on it, and I added a key to it. So
Thank you.
Thanks.
So that's different than this.
Yeah, it's actually,
I'll take it
as far as informationally, it's the same that I submitted. All I did was just change the color of the graphics, just to made it a little bit easier to read. And I just added the shading key, the legend that you see there, I just thought I'd give it a little bit more clarity. So from the proposed standpoint, you can see we are impacting areas of, 0 to 50-foot buffer, 50 to 100-foot buffer. A lot of those areas are already impacted or disturbed from the existing house that's there, the existing development. We also, that golf amenity area that's shaded in green on this plan, that actually fills the northern portion, proposed to fill the northern portion of that isolated wetland. And on those isolated wetlands, both that larger one that's on the east and then those two small pockets, those were all prior bogs. There's actually a plan that I have, which when we submit formally, we'll include in the application, but there's an A&R plan that actually shows those bogs, those wetland systems there that were active bogs previously that went dormant and have vegetated themselves. But we thought it was important to point that out. The other two small isolated wetlands that are on the west side of the parcel, those are, if you go out and look at them, they were holes when they're doing the bog work, they use sand for, the agricultural use in the bogs. And those are actually holes where you could tell they dug with machines to take the sand to use in the bog, and those two little pockets turned into wetlands, into an isolated wetland. So they're not naturally occurring. They're kind of, I'll call them the man-made, man created them and they turned into a wetland. So I just thought that was important just to point out just from the overall system, environmental system out there and the overall proposal that we will be submitting ultimately to you, I'll say. So what you see on this sheet here, and again, I went through this with Drew in several meetings. The proposal in a nutshell is obviously the project that we just talked about, the 14 units, the golf amenity. There's obviously buffer impacts. There's some proposed wetland fill. To mitigate all that, and you see the calculation in the upper right corner there, we went through the buffer impacts using the necessary mitigation ratios in your bylaw for both buffers, and then obviously the 2-to-1 replication for the wetland fill. And to offset that, the mitigation aspect is going to be taking the 3 active bogs, which are the lighter shaded green that you see, the 2 to the far west, and then the 1 just to the south of the site. The 2 to the far west are actually in Quaker Run, and those are all currently active bogs. So those are going to be provided as the mitigation for this project, taking those bogs out of active agricultural use and restoring them to a wetland system. And again, through dialogue, in several meetings with Drew, he agreed that, from an environmental standpoint, it's really going to be a significant benefit because we're really trying to bring that system along Quaker Run back to its natural state. And the impacts that we're having on site for the wetlands that I just kind of walked through, yes, they are wetlands, but they were created by activity, man-made activity, if you will, when they were doing their, prior bog activity. So with that, and there is the pictures up there if you didn't want to pull them up, but they're probably easier for this to see on this. These are just sample pictures, is all they are. They're not specific to this location.
And as Matt passing that out, I would point out the one you're looking at here, bog restoration performed, just historically, back in 2005 and 6, when Willow Bend added an additional 9 holes to the golf course, part of that was in and around another series of old bogs which had been abandoned, and you see on the left part of our mitigation at that time, because the creation of the 9 holes had the wetland impacts, part of what we agreed to was a restoration of some of the old bogs, which essentially meant we went in at that time, we eliminated some of the invasive species. There were some white pine that had grown in, et cetera, and then, enhanced it with native wetland plants. And this is upstream, this is also the same Quaker Run ecosystem, if you will. This is at the far northern end of our property. So we have some experience with that, and we also, went through a process with that of agreeing to specific protocols for the maintenance of those going forward, and best management practices on the use of pesticides and fertilizers in and around the bogs, the wetland system. So it's something, we feel we can accomplish. We have the expertise to do it. And, we feel it'll be a nice amenity for the golf course, as much as the bog is, to have a restored natural wetland system there. So, and I think this is the very bottom, the very southern end of our property. This is where Quaker Run runs out into the bay. The next photo, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the way those are printing out, Stacy, yeah, they came out, if you look at the handout that I gave to you, the headings on each of those pictures is what you want to look at. The way they get printed out, and what you're seeing up on the screen is the headings not matching to the pictures. So, but just real quick, so, just to elaborate a little bit on what Jack was just going through, from the overall project, going through the impacts, going through the mitigation ratio calculations, wetland impacts, and which we'll obviously get into all that detail and provide that in all the necessary detail when we get to that point for submission. It boils down to what you see before you right now at the kind of conceptual / preliminary level, I'll call it. We are going to be creating about 2.5 acres, a little bit better than 2.5 acres of wetland restoration, taking out over 2.5 acres of active bog and creating and restoring to a natural wetland system. In those pictures that I just handed out, the first two on the first page there, where it says the bog restoration, that's at golf hole bog number 7, that's what Jack was just talking through. Those pictures demonstrate, previously, I wasn't involved in this project, this was back probably 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. So it's probably 20 years ago, because I've been with Wellington over 15. So those were active bogs, and the wetland area that you see, those were active bogs. Those were taken out as part of the projects that Willow Bend was doing for adding new 9 golf holes, and taking those bogs out, bringing them back into a natural wetland system. I mean, the environmental benefit of that is significant. I mean, I think without getting into a lot of detail on it, I think it's, fairly evident. I believe Jack also was telling me that part of this project that was actually was approved through the commission, there was some wetland fill as part of that as well. They created different, wetland systems and restoration of these bogs in relation, in trade-off and mitigation for the improvements of the golf course, filling some areas, et cetera. So that's what that first page, the first 2 pictures, that shows you an actual bog that was restored in Willow Bend. The second page is just a typical example to kind of show you a before and after, because I didn't have a before picture on the bog 7 holes. So this is from Tidmarsh Farms in Plymouth. I don't know if you're familiar with this. This is part of the NRCS program. I was not involved in the restoration project on this, but we actually did some of the survey and easement. It was very large surveys and easements that NRCS was going through on multiple bog projects throughout Massachusetts for restoring the bogs to wetland systems. And these were pictures that I was able to obtain that just to show a before and after as a typical, right? I mean, that top photo that's what the bog looks like when it's active. I mean, agricultural use, fertilizers, pesticides, et cetera, that are allowed under an agricultural use. They're exempt from certain things. And then that bottom picture shows the restoration of that bog when it's now being restored to a natural system. So it's pretty significant. And then the last picture in that handout was what Jack was referring to as well. This is actually a picture at the end of Quaker Run, at the end of the system that we're talking about, that's not been disturbed, that isn't an active
original,
cranberry.
yeah.
It's what the system looks like, and that's the goal of bringing the system that we're talking about, this mitigation that we're going to be providing for this project, to start bringing the system back to this. And then just one more point, and we have Troy Miller is on the Zoom. I know he was having a hard time hearing, and he was maybe...
Yep, I can hear you, Matt.
Okay. So, Troy, do you want to talk through, this project as far as what's being proposed, and then the proposed mitigation is maybe like a kind of a first step that Willowbend's thinking about? And Troy, do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. For the record, I'm Troy Miller, representing Southworth Mashpee Properties in Willow Bend, and appreciate you guys taking some time this evening to hear about this project. As I've looked at this section of Willow Bend and looked at this development opportunity, taking out the septic system of this existing home and being able to pull all of these units onto our existing sewer system, the ability to go through along Quaker Run, and when you look at this thing from 40,000 feet and understand how Quaker Run connects down to Shoestring Bay, we really feel like this is a good first step and an opportunity to continue to take this system back to its natural state as a stream and a wetland system, and really create a better water quality situation by removing these agricultural uses from the edges of the stream. And so I think this is a good opportunity for us to really provide a better overall system and really kind of be a case study and a first step and an opportunity to potentially continue to connect these pieces between what will be naturalized and what is already naturalized down closer to Shoestring Bay, and try to really have an opportunity to restore this system over time from Quiniquisette all the way down to the bay. And so this we feel like is a good opportunity for that. And again, overall, looking at the hierarchy of the quality of these systems, we feel like this is an overall positive from an environmental perspective.
Stacy, could you click on the very last tab now? That's that overall. It kind of just gives an overall. Yeah, there you go. Great, thank you. And that what you see right in the center there in the magenta color, that's the Quiniquisette site that we're talking about. Just to the left on that sheet to the west is Quaker Run, and that's where the mitigation of the bogs will occur. And then what Troy was just kind of referring to is if you look as that system travels south down to Shoestring Bay, there's multiple other bogs there, and you can see them on the bottom of our main sheets, but there's other bogs and other opportunities there for improving the system, and that's what Troy is
So you can see, just for orientation, sort of the top left prong, that's the seventh hole, that's where Quaker Run enters onto our property. It flows all the way through the property, probably, the better part of 3/4 of a mile. It's a long way. And then, empties into Shoestring Bay. So we've already restored the very northern end of that. And, this would be an opportunity to recapture sort of the central section. And, we think we could do that. We've had some experience with it, and I think it can be one of those win-win situations where I think it works for us as a golf course amenity, if we could bring it back to look like the original ecosystem that we showed you at the very bottom. And it's certainly an enhancement for water quality and
Water quality and habitat, obviously. I mean, storm flowage prevented, et cetera. Just real quick, too, the pictures on that first page that I identify as Bog 7, that's the northern section on that plan that Jack was just referring to that was restored. So what you're seeing in that picture is to the northern section of those golf holes, and that's where the bogs were restored, So, I mean, that's our presentation, and be happy to answer any questions and hear your thoughts, and
I have a question. I live on this street, so I'm driving it 20 times a day, kid back and forth to school. And after a big rain, there are puddles, lakes, all the way down Quiniquisette
In
Ave on the
Quiniquisette?
right-hand side, kind of exactly where this is, across from the entrance.
okay.
And I know there are, because my son loves it when we drive through them. So I'm wondering, I guess my concern is, how do you feel that clearing this land and putting up these structures is going to affect this runoff potential or anything like that on the
Let me-
street?
Let me first give you a little bit of background on that, and maybe your son has seen this, because, and I don't understand the engineering of it, but it's kind of strange. There's a little like blow-off almost pipe directly across from the entrance to Willow Bend. I think it's the public
freezes
water.
in the winter.
And
I
in the
was
winter, it turns into a big icicle tree.
Huh, what is
And
that?
I don't know, it must be some sort of pressure valve or something on the water main.
I often wonder, like, should I call them and let them know that they have a leak? Because it's through the whole
It-
winter, it's spraying. and I'm like, what is
It
that?
does, and it's been there for
Yeah.
the 15 years that I've been around, but
Right.
I'm not sure that's the whole problem, but that's definitely part of it.
Yeah. My other concern is that I'm wondering if is there another egress for the condo, or is it dump out onto Quiniquisette only?
No, it'll just be that one entrance, yeah, it'll be,
Yeah, 'cause I know you said
it's a cul-de-sac, it'll be about
For-
350 feet long, so it's actually about half as long as the town of Mashpee allows a cul-de-sac to be. 14 units is not it's not a heavy count at all. As far as what you're talking about along the shoulder and drainage and so forth, absolutely, that would all be addressed as part of it. It would be
Maybe you saw
improved.
down at Chestnut down the street, they just did a big piece of work where there's a drainage issue at the bottom of Chestnut, right before you hit
Yeah.
Patuit. So that's also why I'm asking, because there are problems on that street all the way down.
Yeah, no, that would definitely, all of that would get addressed as part of the
And then my
project
other,
through
and
the.
this is not conservation related, but
Yeah.
as someone who lives on that street,
Yeah.
I wonder what you're proposing to do about traffic, because I know you say that it's just back and forth across the street, but there are 14 delivery drivers, 14 dog walkers, 14 nannies who might be going to those homes. And I'll tell you, every time I try to leave my house, I get honked at by people flying up and down the street. So I wonder, I know this is not conservation, but if you guys have thought about a plan for the increased traffic, because it's a nightmare living on that street, I'll tell you.
I mean, from a traffic standpoint, for a project of that size, you wouldn't typically get into a traffic analysis. As Jack had pointed out, these 14 permits exist in Willow Bend. They can do them already in Willow Bend. This is a parcel that they want to annex in and do them here. So it's really not actually changing the count of traffic that they would be allowed to have. These could be, if there was some area, let's say on Willow Bend Drive, they could be on Willow Bend Drive and they'd be coming out at the Willow Bend Drive entrance onto Quiniquisette.
So you think the 14 would be dumping onto Quiniquisette no matter what?
Matt,
Yeah.
one thing I'd like to add, if I could.
I'm sorry?
Can I add one thing to that,
Yeah, yeah,
Matt,
absolutely.
regarding the traffic component?
Yep.
So I think it is important to understand, too, that these 14 units, and part of getting this connection to the greater community here is that they are very walkable, that they will connect to the pedestrian areas to be able to be serviced back to the club and the amenities, and really are geared towards not having vehicular traffic and trying to use their proximity to the club as a more walkable situation. So my intent and my hope in the way that this is designed and the connections that are being created through this kind of village green component is that a lot of the residents and the use of the vehicles will be less so because of the fact that it is so walkable to the amenities that they'll be using and will be part of their community.
Yeah, I think my point was that there would be increased delivery traffic and nannies and dog walkers and people trying to get to these homes that increases the traffic on that street overall, not just the people who are living there, but. I know that's a question, talk for another time.
Okay. But no, I appreciate the
And the
thoughts, though. and
treatment
the
plant,
comment.
are they hooking up to the one that's there now? Or is there
Yes,
another
yep.
one?
Yeah, no, it's the existing wastewater treatment plant will be connecting to the existing sewer system that's in Willow Bend, yep.
And is that capacity unlimited, or
I'm sorry?
does it have an unlimited capacity? that
No, it's not
plant?
unlimited. There is a limit. It's under a groundwater discharge permit through Mass DEP. So this falls within, again, it's, as we've, stated, that 14 units are part of the overall approval. These 14 permits that they could do anywhere in Willow Bend, they want to put here. So it's really not an increase, if you will. It's just the location.
But yet you're just hooking up to that?
Yes,
That's
yep,
right.
yeah, yep. Up to the public system and into the wastewater treatment plant has the capacity for these 14 units easily. So, yeah.
What is the current capacity of Willow Bend's treatment plant?
The current capacity is 113,000 gallons per day.
113?
And our, max flows during, the summer peak season, average, 60 to 70,000. So the plant is actually owned by the Willow Bend Homeowners Association, which, we've got something on the order of 400 homes, and they have an association which controls it. And I could say that we just went through a process with the town on the Phase 1 sewer project, where, we granted the town a piece of land coming down Mashpee Neck Road for a pump station for Phase 1. And there have been active discussions about the town taking over control of the Willow Bend plant at some time down the road and tying that into the town system. And that, of course, would be a decision to be made by the homeowners association, but I think there's broad support for that. And it would allow the town to utilize, in my view, it makes sense because the town could utilize that excess capacity, which is not being used today. Again, when we did the 9 holes years ago, one of our mitigation commitments, which was done, which we did, was to connect the Katuitt Bay condominiums, which you're familiar with, that are right at the head of Shoestring Bay, and they were on septic systems. And so Willow Bend, at its cost, installed a line, brought that back up and hooked it into our plant. So, the idea that if the town took it over, there are similar opportunities, like the Pheasant Run condominiums that are right up there. So it would make sense. And the town has said they would be interested in discussing that as part of their Phase 2.
So have you all been involved in the development of Willow Bend from way back in the day?
I have. I've been involved, since the late 90s, probably. So
You're old.
I am old.
Well, I really just wanted to ask, on the whole development, what proportion do you know, and I'm not looking for like exact detail, but how much of the land that Willow Bend units are built upon were bogs converted?
Were bogs, I believe, don't hold me, I believe we had 17 acres of active bogs that are actively being farmed, and some of those have been retired, but I'm guessing today there's probably, 12 to 14.
And they weren't built on those. Is that what you're,
Yeah, I'm trying to figure,
The bogs
I'm
weren't,
just trying
yeah.
to figure out, because there were so many pros and so many cons, as you had mentioned,
Yeah.
environmentally.
This was all vacant. I mean, everything you see there, was vacant through the late 1980s.
I remember it being vacant, but I wasn't sure if it was made up, what percentage might have been made up of active cranberry bogs.
Yeah, and, the bogs were the only thing there, basically, in the late 80s before the golf course. There was also a large farm on a part of
Yeah.
it, which is in the area where the tribe now operates its agricultural farm there. So this was all agricultural land, you know, in the early 90s.
But wasn't there sort of before cranberry bogs, more recently, have become less financially a good investment? Wasn't there a time when there was a big brouhaha, and I'm wondering how we got through that? I was not living here full-time. I had a part-time place here, but do you recall that? There was a
I
big
mean, I
stink?
don't, I know just anecdotally that the cranberry business has ebbed and flowed, and it's certainly gone downhill
know,
over the last 25 years. And, you know, there's Willow Bend, not telling any secrets here, we get no economic benefit out of it. We just essentially lease it to a farmer
Yeah.
who operates it and, keeps it clean and looking decent, and
Well, it's just to have that nice balance, and you both referenced that during your conversation.
Right.
As you go around the town, you're gonna be making your presentations and refining it, et cetera, right? You know, there are still those that hang on to building on a bog. And then there are obviously a lot of pros to the management of it once you do a restoration. And you do it environmentally sound and
Right.
useful and all of that, so. So 14 out of how many, 400?
400,
Yeah.
total acres.
Well, it's a pretty spot.
In Bog 4 and 5, there's no planned work for anything there?
Not right now, yeah. I mean, at this preliminary stage, Bog 1, 2, and 3 meets the mitigation requirement as far as area. Those future bogs would be, maybe, future steps that Troy was mentioning potentially, right? So, and as we get into the detail, obviously, everything will get refined, and I'm sure things will adjust a little bit here and there as needed. But this plan gives us, a good basis of here's what we're, would like to accomplish.
Ideally, what's your timetable? Ideally, if all things went
Well,
their way.
ideally, Troy would be probably saying, a month ago, but we're probably, realistically, what do we got, November already? I'm gonna say hopefully coming in, and Troy, don't shoot me, like probably February is what I'm thinking, filing wise. There's a lot of steps, there's a lot of design effort that has to be done. This planning board that we have to work with, and there's a lot of design detail. That's why we really wanted to, get your thoughts initially here before we really start putting a lot of man-hours going to the detail level that's needed, so.
But you've been before the planning board?
We have informally, we haven't filed anything, but we've, showed them the same
The same thing that we said? Yeah.
plans that you have seen and getting their reaction, and have met with Evan to sort of agree on a permitting process that would, allow this to move forward under our special permit, so, but, we will go there next, I think,
Yeah.
and start
We've
to
had
really
some-
involve that. We
Right,
haven't
some of
got
them-
any specific feedback from them.
And some of the meetings that we've had too, we actually, with Evan, the town planner, and Drew in the same meeting, all of us together. So, so we could all kind of just bounce around thoughts, ideas, and what we were thinking, and making sure that everybody's, hopefully on the same page, so.
That must have been an interesting meeting.
And these numbers are way too small for my eyes. How big of a footprint do these cottages make up?
They're smaller size houses for Willow Bend. I want to say around 1,500 square feet. The houses are probably,
Correct.
Troy, do you know off the top of your head what
1,500
it's?
square foot, 1,500 square foot footprint.
And those are detached garages?
Yeah, there's a detached garage, and so there's one bay for each structure. So that detached garage that you see, that's two bays. One will go for the house on one side and one for the other.
Two-bedroom?
These are three-bedroom, Troy?
Correct.
Yeah. it's a 1,500 footprint. I mean, the square footage of the houses are probably in the, what, the 23 range, 2,300 square foot range, probably.
Any other questions? Charlie, any questions?
Oh, I know.
Did he just say over and out?
I think he said, I don't know.
So,
Well, thank you for
yeah,
your-
we,
Well, thank you.
thank you for your
We'll keep you
time and
posted as
listening
we
to
let
us.
Just a
and
heads up.
So
Well, I
we're, yeah,
think
so
you
we're
were
gonna,
smart to come.
we're gonna advance along these lines here, and you'll hopefully be seeing this in the not-too-distant future.
Keep Drew in the loop on this.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
okay with commissioners to go up and walk the parcel and,
Sure.
okay.
Yeah, if you want to, call us, we'd be happy to, set you up. You could have a golf cart. It's a lot of ground to cover out
Yeah.
there, but if you wanted to ride up and down, the Quaker Run, and could show you the areas that have been restored and how that worked. And
Yeah.
Right down the street.
so,
Yeah, we had a meeting out there a couple of years ago with some of the commission members,
Yeah.
just going through Willow Bend, yeah.
My mother was on the Conservation Commission 100 years ago. She's looking down now, and she's horrified. She just was like, the bugs, you can't do that to the bugs.
yeah.
I hear her now.
Before we do wrap this up, I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce our assistant agent, Dan Kent, who's come on board.
Hey, Dan.
Hope he stays with us long,
Yeah.
for a long, long time.
Plan on it.
Great.
I'm sure
Trial
we'll be
by fire
talking.
tonight.
Terrific.
You done good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you
Thanks very
again.
much.
Okay, thank
Nice
you.
to
Great
meet you.
night.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Troy.
Do you want Dan to just read all the updates?
Sure.
Thank you.
Before Dan goes through the updates, we would typically take public comments for each one of these.
I worked there
I don't
once
think
upon a
anyone's
time,
online.
Oh, you did?
when I was a chef in a
And
previous life.
The newspaper's here, Alex is there, he might have a question or a comment, I don't know.
A restaurateur chef.
Okay, Dan, I'll turn it over
Oh,
to
my
you.
pleasure. Be safe, guys.
Chef, I'm no
I
longer in the
know what
business.
you mean. He is so happy now. We're doing mostly consulting, still, but
All
food
right.
and wine, the whole industry just.
So for updates, we have the Red Brook Road culvert. Neil Price of Horsley Witten will attend December 8th Concom meeting to review conceptual report for culvert replacement. The agent is extended to invite to abutters for this presentation for a Q&A. The Upper Quashnet restoration is ongoing data collection for permit level planning. The next is bylaw review subcommittee. The next meeting to be scheduled when the agent returns from vacation, estimated to be the week of the November 14th through the 18th.
Introduction of Assistant Agent Daniel Kent.
Yep, thank you.
That's who that is.
John's Pond and Santuit Pond milfoil. There'll be a Zoom meeting with DNR Director and there'll be a Zoom meeting with DNR Director and the water and the wetlands to be scheduled the week of November 14th through 18th. Excuse me if I get this one wrong. The Chop Chake Bog restoration. The Mass Environmental Policy Act application is to be submitted by November 14th. We're requesting a waiver of an environmental impact report, which is typically required for large-scope restoration projects, but not necessary for this project. Local comprehensive plan, the town planner will provide updates in the coming weeks. Land acquisition subcommittee, that is to be scheduled. Mashpee River Woodlands Trail modification, New England Mountain Biking Club, and the Eversource easement correspondence. We are awaiting responses to the RFP for surveyed plan of Switchback Trail and rebuilding of access steps down embankment with Eversource easement. And the guided Mashpee Nature Tours, November 2022 schedule is out. And the Herring Warden updates, Zoom meeting with United States Geological Service and Tribes Natural Resources Director to assess fish ladder amendments to prevent bird mortality during herring run migration season. Agent will describe amendments in detail. And that is about it. Public comment.
Thank you, Dan. Are there any additional topics that anyone would like to bring up before I ask for a motion to adjourn? Sound like there is. Okay, then I'll accept a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Marge.
And move to adjourn.
Second? Anyone?
Second?
Thank you. No further discussion on calling it quits? Marjorie, how do you vote?
I shall vote yes.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you, Tom? Aye. Thank you. Charlie?
Yes.
Thank you. I vote yes as well. So we're out at 8:56.